it, which the Camino really helped me recognize how much I had going on to finally just let it go. Moment to get there, but when it does, it's spectacular. He stands up and he says, "Oh my God, you're here. I've been praying for you." That's a huge thing that we need in life. I don't know, I can't speak for men, but I know women have a tendency, it's difficult for us. And for me, learning, asking for help from others was a big deal. I've been talking about my friend all morning long, and there she was. The universe, or whatever you want to talk, say, God, whatever, was telling me my friend was. You must do it. I did it last year. It's the best experience of my life. So already the Camino, before I even knew about it, was guiding me to go and walk the Camino.
Hello, Pilgrims. I hope that you are doing well today. And we are here at the Way to Your Way podcast. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Andrea Wait. And she is a writer as well. So we're going to be talking to her. She also walked the Camino several times. And then we're going to be talking to her about her experience. Hello, Andrea. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me here and for providing us this platform to share our personal Caminos.
Yes, no problem. And thank you for being here. And the first question that I have for you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how do you get involved with the Camino?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. So I guess I was born with an adventurous spirit. I'm the youngest of 5 and grew up in the state of New York. And when I graduated university, I lived in Manhattan, and I really didn't have a connection to New York, although I'm a native New Yorker. I had been to California as a kid. So at the age of 25, I got in my car and I drove cross country. No internet, no cell phones. And so I've always had this adventurous spirit. The Camino connects with me. During the pandemic, I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I needed an outlet to kind of navigate what I was going through, because so many people were going through so much at that time. So I started writing. I started writing about my experience. Because the pandemic had shut my business down, I was working as what we call a professional organizer, organizing people's homes and helping them get rid of things. I decided to write a book about that. And so a couple of years ago, I published that book. And always the Camino kept calling. You know, I had done parts of it a couple times before the pandemic. But I decided, as we were beginning to come out, to hike the Portuguese route. So that pretty much planted the seed. And then, as I had shared with you previously, now it's going to be 2 years, which I can't believe we're in 2025. I decided to walk the Camino Frances and write about my experience doing that. But innately, I've been this adventurous person my whole life. And so the spirit of the Camino and connecting with the Camino really resonated with me.
Oh, that's really interesting. And then moving from New York to California, coast to coast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, in learning about the Camino, most of us, it's different ways how it kind of seeps in. I was born to a mom who every year we would drive from New York to Florida, all 5 children, 2 dogs, and my mother would put us in the car and just drive straight through. So I guess it's sort of in my DNA. And one day this is years ago, saw that famous movie that we all have by Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez about the way. And at that point, I had thought about doing things like hike the Pacific Crest Trail or hike Appalachian Trail. But at this stage in the game, am I really ready because I do all these adventures on my own, was I ready to go and hike and find a place to sleep and all that? Not really. So when I saw the Camino movie, I thought, that is something I think I might like to do. And as you have experienced the Camino before in very Camino-like fashion, that night I went out with a girlfriend to see this thing called the Moth. They're storytellers, which resonates with me. And I secretly, in a very small voice, said, "Hey, I think I'm going to walk this thing called the Camino." She could not have been louder in response. "You must do it. I did it last year. It's the best experience of my life." So already the Camino, before I even knew about it, was guiding me to go and walk the Camino.
Yeah, that what you just say is absolutely correct. And I've been experiencing all this because I lived the Camino twice. I'm gonna be living the third time this year. But then on the other hand, because I'm doing the podcast, everyone that I interviewing, the information that they provide so well is so positive
It is.
that it's amazing what one single trip can do for your life.
Oh, absolutely. It plants the seed in you um, that changes who you are. I mean, it really changes your being going on the Camino that you and I both know about.
Yes. And what Camino have you done?
I have walked the Francis 3 times. I walked the first one. I've walked Francis twice, part of it, and then I walked the Portuguese with my girlfriend. She had also been diagnosed with cancer, so that was really us kind of dissecting our experience. And then in 2023, in May, I walked from St. Jean to Santiago on my own. My husband met me in Soria for the last 5 days. So I've done it
Okay.
4 times, and I'm turning 60 this year. Woohoo. So I'm going to
Okay.
go back to Francis and walk my favorite part, which I really love, Sahagun to O Cebreiro, because I love O
Okay.
Cebreiro so much. I want to land on top of a mountain.
O Cebreiro is that town where you are on the hill
Yeah,
and you
like the
can
little round
watch.
dome buildings.
Okay, you know that I interviewed, that interview is still not live, but I interviewed the nephew of Elias Valiña. Elias Valiña is the priest who started with all the signing of all the Camino de Santiago.
Yes.
And then when the interview with his nephew, he was saying that on that little town, the population is just 7 people.
Yeah. Who live there?
So
And
it
every
is,
day, those 7 people, how many pilgrims do they see every single day?
yeah,
It's
yeah. So
incredible. And I love that pilgrim mass. I remember, and I get chills thinking about it, being in the church. And, you can come from a variety of faiths. I think this sometimes gets lost on people, but people come from all over the world, and you're in this church. It's kind of cold. It's that stone building. And the priest, he had everybody say the Our Father in their own language. What I
yeah,
found so incredible about it was the ebb and the flow, regardless, Japanese, French, Spanish, English, it was exactly the same. So in saying that prayer, we all sounded exactly the same. And I find that incredible.
yeah. That is amazing. And he was telling me one of his story, and if I don't recall exactly what he said, but he was mentioning that long time ago. I believe that even before his uncle, uh, there was a father there that it was very cold, it was snowy and all that, and there was a person who lived close to the area that he always wanted to go to the mass. And the priest would say, well, I go all that cold, I need to just open the church just for him. And he needed to do it. But that was, I don't remember when it was, but when we put that live, I'm going to share definitely that chapter with you as well.
Well, I got to tell you, the priest experience for me on the Camino was really interesting because the very first time I walked the Camino, I walked by myself and carrying my backpack. And I don't know why. I was very naive going into the Camino. So I just thought, well, I'm walking. It's not that big a deal. Even when people kept saying to me, but you're walking 15 miles a day or whatever it was that I had planned. So
Yeah.
I remember it was getting towards the end of the day, heading into Astorga. And Astorga, as you know, like you have to climb the train track. There's the hill to go up. And it was a long day. I'd walked about 15 hours, and everyone was passing me on the Camino. I had dubbed myself in my brain, you're the slowest person walking on the Camino.
I have to say, though, I did see a tractor at one point and thought, maybe I'll ask that guy if I can get a ride.
You know those things that we tell ourselves. 2 gentlemen walked by. They seemed together, and I live in San Francisco, so I thought they were a couple. What do I know? And they were very kind. But, I mean, when I say they're at least 80 years old, that is not an exaggeration. And they walk by me, and I'm like, oh, my God, even the old people are passing me. So I didn't have a place to stay that night, and my phone was dying, my feet hurt, all those things that we tell ourselves. I was very dramatic. So I managed to get a hold of my husband back in the States, and I tell him what's going on. He said, look, Andrea, just get yourself a nice place to stay tonight, get a good night's sleep, you'll be fine. Well, during that, I thought to myself, I got dark. I'm like, what if something happened to me on the Camino? How long would it take me to get information back to my husband that, some fatality, it was very traumatic, it happened to me. So I took his advice. I got the nice hotel. It was lovely. The next morning, it was a pilgrim's dream. I walked into this room, and thanks to a friend of mine, she said, carry a little plastic container because whenever food is given out, stock up for the rest of the day. Very good advice. So I go into this big dining room, and there's food everywhere. And I thought, oh my God, I have food for the whole day. Well, there were two gentlemen, and I kept thinking, no one knows I'm here. No one cares about me. I'm all by myself. I was so dramatic. I walk into this room, and this older gentleman looks up. He stands up and he says, oh my God, you're here. I've been praying for you all night. That was the two guys that were walking by me, and the guy was a priest. So he had been praying for me the entire time. That I have been saying to myself, no one knows I'm here. No one loves me. So those sayings that we hear over and over again about the Camino provides and all of that really is true if you allow yourself to believe it. It takes a moment to get there, but when it does, it's spectacular. Boy, we had a good laugh.
Yeah, that's correct. And when you're walking, once you find someone, you know that if you start talking with them, also the time goes so fast that you don't even recall that you were walking and you are not even tired.
Absolutely. And all your dramatic stuff, like where am I going to eat? Where will I go to the bathroom? All of that, it evaporates. It's all this noise that's in our head. Yeah. Which the Camino really helped me recognize how much I had going on to finally just let it go. But it's a practice.
Correct. And everything about doing the Camino is the time that you have for thinking about self-reflection, all that made you, when you return, the life easier.
Yes, absolutely. And the other part too is, your mind goes to recognizing you can see when you're walking and you see other people in that mindset that you were, that are feeling like you automatically, your empath comes in and how can I help you? What's happening for you? Your knee looks bad. The thing about collectively this group, even though we're individually walking, there is a joint energy that's happening between all of you, that you recognize something about yourself in someone else that you can help. And that I loved about the Camino so much.
Correct. There is a lot of positive energy all around the Camino.
Absolutely. I tell my friends all the time, it's like magic fairy dust. When I think it was the third Camino, walking with my friend Gladys, we used one of the transfer services, and everyone said, oh, is it safe? First of all, no one wants to steal your stuff. They already have their own stuff. But I remember the courier service I used, it was maybe €5 to transfer your pack from one place to the next, and putting the €5 in the envelope. And then the next day there was €2 change. Like, there's no worry about, and I know now people are talking about there has been crime on the Camino and you do need to be safe. But I do feel like there's something magical that happens between all of us pilgrims.
Yeah, and also, of course, it's always like a common sense. You
Absolutely.
always, where you travel, you need to take your precautions, as it's common sense.
And that's what I talk about. I ended up writing a book about the Camino, and that's what I talk about. When you get to a big city, what are some of the things you can do? You can, when you check into the hotel, and women should do this anyway. Wherever you're going, grab 2 room keys. So the assumption there's someone else in your room, or, there's things that you can do safety wise. And I address all of that stuff in my book so that it can empower women not to live in fear.
Yeah, that's really nice that you wrote that book. And then how long ago that was that you wrote the book?
So I walked the Camino May 2023. And so what I did was every day, barely, at the end of the day, I would record on my audio on my phone my thoughts for the day. And then the following morning, I would write it down. So I wrote every single day. Okay. And then when I got home, I sat down and I put it in a book, and it was published at the end of 2023. So it was pretty quick turnaround. It was about 7 months. But I had been accumulating that information for a long time, having walked already 3 times. There was a lot of stuff. Being a professional organizer, I do have the tendency to have a type A personality. So I had written it down, my guidebook. So it really was a couple years in the making.
Oh, that's really good. And that book that you write about the Camino, how many days were you walking
I
on
walked
the
for,
Camino?
my plan was to walk for 37 days. And I talk about this in my book. I ended up walking for 38 days total. I took 1 rest day. And my book talks about all those things, like why did I have to take a rest day? It talks about the mistakes I made, how to
Okay.
recover from those mistakes. It's the learning things that we learn about the Camino that's so important. For me, my sort of, for lack of a better thing that I've been carrying my whole life is the ability to ask for help. Asking
Okay.
for help is a huge thing that we need in life. I don't know, I can't speak for men, but I know women have a tendency, it's difficult for us. And for me, learning, asking for help from others was a big deal that really came through on the Camino for me. I have always been a person to be of service and wanting to help others. But for me, figuring out how to accept it myself was a big deal.
I'm very proud of myself, which I know we often don't say, but I'm going to.
And so I talk about that in the book.
Well, that's really good. And what is the name of your book?
My book is called Go Your Own Way, A Practical Guide for Women Walking the Camino. Originally, I wanted to call it My Way, but the editor was like, no, you're encouraging people to do it their way. So I basically give people the foundation and suggestions on how to train, what to pack, where did I stay, thoughts that came to me, experiences. Because I found that when I got back the last time from Spain, I have so many girlfriends, women friends that are around my age in their 60s who say to me, I want to walk the Camino, but. So the book is addressing the buts, how to turn your fear into faith and faith of something bigger, which is incredibly important on the Camino, and allowing yourself to have that faith, to have the experiences that can come from the Camino. I mean, you can put 5 people in a room to talk about the Camino and you will get 5 very, very different stories. So my book is their foundation to help them, but then to go and live their own Camino. Not everybody wants to plan their Camino. Some people must plan their Camino. Some people want to carry a backpack. Some people don't want to carry a backpack. I address all of those things.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Everybody's different, and all the reasons to do the Camino are valid.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a great idea. So, pilgrims, if you would like to be more interested on reading the book from Andrea, would be really nice. So, it's Your Own Way by Andrea Wait. And where do you have it? Where do you have it if someone wanted to look for that book?
So you can find my book on Amazon, and you can also find the book on my website, andreawait.com, ANDREAWAIT.com. And really, I can't say it enough, the magic that can happen to you in your life because of the Camino. It's a special experience. It's unique. It's not like going on a vacation, although vacations are fantastic. This is different. This is about looking at who you are, seeing what's great, things that aren't. I learned a lot about myself, and the gifts that can happen by walking the Camino are incredible if you can allow yourself to be open to the unknown.
Okay. And what would you say could be a similarity between walking the Camino and doing the pilgrimage,
Mm-hmm.
and then writing the book for the Camino, or any other book?
Say that again?
What would you say that can be a similarity by walking the Camino day after day, and then also writing a book that is by chapters?
Yeah, that it even goes back to even planning the Camino, because in planning the Camino, it seemed like such a very overwhelming task that I was able to break down in small increments.
In the beginning of the day, that was great. I was thinking, okay, it's cool. But after 19 miles of walking into the wind, it's rough.
Right?
Okay.
Like, okay, first get your flights, then get your clothes. Same thing with the Camino. Each day is a new day. We can get so caught up in, oh my God, I have 37 days to go. I have, whatever. But instead to take each day as it comes. And that was the exact same thing with my book. First, I just need to sit down and start writing, just whatever comes to mind, and breaking it up like that. Eventually, I was able to press the end, but that wasn't the end. Then I needed to find a publisher. Then I needed to find people to talk to about it. So it's the same thing. The Camino and writing, it's a practice that's done daily, and it's advisable to take it in increments that you can handle.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Like any profession, it's one step at a time.
Yeah.
If you take the things with enough time to take in consideration, you're gonna do better the next step.
Absolutely, absolutely,
and that applies for any profession.
Absolutely, and you will fumble. There's no doubt about it. As I said to my friends when my first book came out, if you see any mistakes, please don't tell me. I don't need to know. It's okay. There will be mistakes made. And I did, I remember when I walked the Camino the last time, I get to a place and I thought I had a reservation. And the lady said, I'm so sorry, you don't. There are 2 hotels in this area 60 miles apart. And unfortunately, yours is 60 miles away. Oh my goodness. That was not a good day. But that big lesson right there was, the only thing I can handle right now is my reaction to this experience. So do I freak out and have a temper tantrum? Or do I recognize the fact that I'm looking to the left, they have a bathroom in this building. I'm looking to the right, there are people eating, so there is food. The woman who's checking me in speaks English, so she can help me get another place. And right in that moment, I learned the only thing when situations happen in our life that we can figure out is how we respond to them. And immediately everything changed.
But you know what? I did it.
And because of that, she got me a place that night, which was the most magical experience of the Camino, which forced me to have a rest day the next day because now I was ahead of the game. And the lady liked me so much, she gave me this beautiful room with a bathtub, and it rained that day. But because I chose not to have this humongous childish temper tantrum, I was okay. So those are the kind of things that, unless you experience it, it doesn't stick with you. And doing something like the Camino, and is it easy? No, it is not easy by any means, but it is a life gift like no other.
Yes, it's like a life. There are times when you are super happy, super excited, but there are times when you are going through difficult times too as well. And it's how you face those times.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, sometimes on the corporate environment, so when you're working and you have a team, and the team sometimes they worry so much about things that they don't need to worry about it.
Well, and the other thing is, because that's the thing all the time that I try to kind of express, in the book, is that if you worry about something, right, you worry about you're going to get blisters, and then you get blisters, you've experienced it twice.
Yeah.
Right? So instead, I'm going to tell you how to prevent the blisters. Vaseline every day. Don't let your feet get hot. Change your socks regularly. But if there are, then I'm also going to tell you how to treat it. But don't experience blisters twice. It's not necessary.
Yeah, correct. If happen. And then at the time that happens, you deal with it.
So that is the essence of really, is to, rather than live in fear, have faith. There's incredible guides now. There's so many ways to do the Camino that works for you. I mean, you and I have seen it. What is the average age of the pilgrim? It's not 25. It's our age. It's people with glasses and gray hair. So if we are doing it, everybody can walk the Camino. You walk 1 mile of the Camino, it's a Camino.
Correct. Yes, that's absolutely right. I was talking yesterday with a customer.
Yeah.
And she was worried about that. She was saying, well, but we're going to be able to walk that. Yeah, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to walk that. And you do your training in any park that you have close to. Just walk 5-10 miles and don't have to be every day.
No.
You just do it every weekend.
No.
And you're going to be fine.
Absolutely. Or, I walked with these ladies from Australia last time, and, one of them, she would take a bus, she would take a cab, but did she do the Camino? Absolutely, she did the Camino. Yeah. For sure. There's no doubt about it. She left her life and she came to this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other scene, when I was walking one of the Caminos,
Yeah.
and like you say that couple that you mentioned that were over 80 years old.
Yeah.
Well, I remember it was not 80, but probably 77 years old. It was a guy.
Yeah.
That we were kind of tired, and we asked him, where are you coming from? And he was with a super big backpack. and he said, I'm coming from Italy.
Wow.
I said, wow. And we were close to Pontevedra.
Yeah.
I said, wow.
Amazing.
And he was walking with so much energy, like he was a kid.
Yeah, yeah. And then you see young ones, and they're not walking like kids. We're all out there.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And I have other of the interviews that I did. It was with a person who he was a Boy Scout when he was a kid.
Oh, wow.
And he liked to do hiking. He has been walking anywhere. And the Camino, probably he have done like 7 or 8 Caminos.
Wow.
And the one of them that he did last year, he was walking probably from the south of France. And he said that he took about 85 days walking because he went from France to Finisterre.
Wow.
And it's exciting. And he has been walking also in the part of California, in the mountains in California, Alaska, the Patagonia. He liked to live that experience.
Yeah, he's outside.
Yes. And
I think it's incredible. You know, I always think about that guy, Steve Jobs, that invented Apple. And what he said, most of his great creative ideas happened while walking outside. And I feel that in my soul that I am now a writer because of walking the Camino, really, about being outside and connecting to people and connecting to nature and being part of the elements and touching the ground every single day. There's something about that boosts creativity and thought. I mean, how many people come home from the Camino and write a book? I mean, I'm not unique by any means, because of the experience that they had, the stories that they had, you know? I mean, I remember meeting this couple. They were walking with their grown daughter, and the gentleman, he really wanted to walk with me. I could sense his wife didn't really like that so much, but I was kind of going with it. And he started asking me stories about myself. Had I ever lost a friend to someone who had taken their own life? And I have. I have lost a very good friend, my friend Gabby. So we are walking and walking and walking, and it starts to rain. And I can see his wife kept looking back like, okay, you should be walking with me now, not this random lady. And she didn't want to be on the Camino. So finally I said to the gentleman, you know, I think it might be a good idea for you to maybe go on with your wife, and I'll wait for your daughter. I know she's coming through. And he goes, oh, and she's walking with her friend. Great. So I hear these 2 young ones singing and dancing, and the rest of us are just like, it's raining, let's just get to the destination. But I can hear, it's almost like the sound of music in the forest. These 2 young women dancing and singing in the rain. And they get up to me, and I say to the girlfriend, I'm so sorry I didn't meet you. What is your name? And her name was Gabby. I had been talking about my friends all morning long, and there she was. The universe, or whatever you want to talk, say, God, whatever, was telling me my friend was okay. That is the Camino.
Yeah. The Camino have a meaning for everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. Well, it fast forwards because the wife, I meet up with her and I start talking with her, and we are talking and talking and talking. We're having a nice time. At the end of the day, she says to me, I'm so sorry. I was really rude to you earlier. I really wanted nothing to do with you, because the reason why my husband encouraged me to walk the Camino is because I lost my good girlfriend last year, and her name is Andrea.
Wow.
I looked up at God. I said, really, this is a lot here. There's a lot happening here. But that's what I mean by, like, when you get to the Camino, if you decide to do it, whatever is your journey, if you can allow yourself beyond just getting through the physical part, which is huge. I granted, I get that part. But if you can get beyond that, to allow yourself to be open to whatever is going to come to you, it's amazing. You and I both know what can happen.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And tell me, Andrea, You also were involved, and that's the way that I knew about yourself, is that you were encouraging to do like a kind of question, to organize a place to respond questions about the Camino,
Yeah.
and in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that event?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about being a writer and writing these books on the Camino is that you can join all these Facebook pages, right? They're great. They're groups, whatever. But because unfortunately there have been people that have sort of, between artificial intelligence, scammers, you're really technically not allowed to promote anything about what you do, what you sell, whatever. And I get it. No one wants, a giant store on these Facebook pages. But at the same time, here I have a book that I think really, I wrote it to be of help of others. So I'm constantly thinking about ways that not only myself, but other people, whether you've made a film or a t-shirt or a backpack, can get their products out into the world. And so what I've been trying to do is I found a place in San Francisco, a store called Sports Basement, that really, it's all in hiking enthusiasts and stuff like that. And so I reached out to them and said, hey, you have this this community room. Can I use the room? And so they were fantastic and said, absolutely. And then from there, I reached out to fellow pilgrims and said, hey, have you written a book? Have you made a backpack? Send me one of your products. I'll include it in a raffle. And everything was free. And then organically, I went online and said, hey, anybody who's walked the Camino that wants to talk about your story and share something, would you come and speak? Well, pilgrims, they all love talking about their story. And it was funny. People kept asking me, like, did you vet them and make sure they're going to say things that are appropriate? I'm like, no, because they're pilgrims, and whatever they're going to talk about is what you're going to experience on the Camino anyway. So it didn't matter to me. And it was a great event. So that morning, the place was great. They had everything set up really nicely for me. I had 4 speakers. They spoke about their Camino. I also gave them specific things to talk about. My husband did the raffle. People won books. And, the authors of these books from all around the country were so thankful, like, just to have another place to get their book out into the world. And then we did a question and answer. And then I got someone from the store to do a shoe clinic, because obviously shoes are pretty much the most important thing about walking the Camino. And so it was a hugely successful day for people to connect. And so I'll probably do more of those. It's in order for me to help myself, I realize I've got to figure out how to help others and incorporate them in it. So I'm also going to do a big book event in San Francisco. So I realized, like, it's all self-created, like the Camino, right? Like, you get there, you walk the Camino, but then you've got to figure out where you're going to stay. You've got to figure out where you're going to eat. It's the same thing.
Yeah, you're gonna be doing well, because what you're doing is the right things in order to get people that know about you, about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I've been experiencing the same. With this podcast that we're doing. Right now it's like going into shape, but into the beginning it was difficult.
It's difficult. When I say to you, when I start, thank you for providing this platform, I genuinely mean that. Like, thank you for providing the platform for people, because what happens is you're stuck in your house and you're like, okay, what's next that I can do? But you want to do it authentically. I don't want to, just go out on the street and selling books here, but you are giving people a vehicle to also think of other things that they can be doing themselves.
Yeah, that's the idea. And the main idea of the podcast is that if someone wants to do the Camino or want to experience the Camino, they know exactly what they're going to face. And with all that, looking from different perspectives, because we always have a different guest.
Yeah.
They're going to know, oh, yes, this is really something that I wanted to do.
And for you, quite honestly, you will be the resource, because you have spoken to all of these people that, you're going to say, you'll meet a woman, hey, I'm going by myself, I'm not sure what to do. Oh, great. This woman, Andrea, wrote a book that might be helpful for you. Or you're going to have someone say, I want to do this. And you'll say, oh, I had this other person on the podcast. You might want to talk to them. You are going to be the resource for all of us. And that is a gift beyond belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
I never imagined in my life that I'm a business administrator. I never imagined in my life that I'm going to be doing a podcast.
I know. Well, that's what I say. I mean, who would have thought 5 years ago any of us would be doing any of this, you know? I mean, I was working away. I had 5 people working for me, but we change and evolve. And I think that the Camino allows us that change and evolve. I mean, you get so many people that are retirees, they're not really sure what they're going to do in that next chapter of their life. And the Camino provides it. Whether it's, I'm going to come back and volunteer here, or I'm going to be a guide, or that's how important the Camino is.
Correct. It's important that you always adapt to change.
Yes.
Because change is always going to happen.
Absolutely. It's inevitable.
And right now, we're going into the next generation of change with the AI, because we don't know how it's going to go. But let's look at the positive way. They have a scene, yes, but look at the positive scenes, not the bad scenes, and adapt it.
Yes.
Because the same happened when the internet came out.
Right. Exactly.
Nobody knew what the internet is going to be doing. Now the internet is doing great things for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For people that are so worried, about different things, you can book your hotel. You can book your hostel. You can book your albergue. It's there if you want it.
Correct.
But it's what you're doing with it.
I absolutely. You are right. Well, Andrea, thank you very much for all this time. I don't know if you would like to add something else, any advice to the pilgrims that would like to walk the Camino.
What I would say is this. The Camino is something that can bring up fear for people, but instead have faith. Have faith in yourself, have faith in others. Don't let fear hold you back. If you are someone, hopefully my book can help you. But there are so many resources out there. So to all of those who are thinking about it, as Nike says, just do it, and buen camino to you.
Yeah, buen camino, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.
Okay, and buen camino, pilgrims, and don't forget to follow us on our social media channels. Look in Instagram, look in Facebook, look here the YouTube video, and put your comments also, because with your comments you help to also find other people to talk about those topics, and that way you also get informed about that. Thank you very much, and see you on the next episode.